Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's geography lesson. My name is Nomthandazo Malembe. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Phakama Research and Development. So in today's topic, we're going to focus on the significance of mining to the developing of South Africa. So by the end of this lesson, learners, these are our targets. You should know the significance or the importance of mining to South Africa. Then secondly, we're going to look at the factors that are favoring mining in South Africa. Also, we'll be looking at the factors that are hindering mining in South Africa. So when we are talking about the factors that are favoring, it is the advantage factors that make mining to be successful. Then if we're talking about the factors that are hindering, we are talking about the disadvantages. These are the things that can make mining not to be successful. Then also we're going to look at the formation of coal. Remember the mineral that will be tested on this year, it will be on the coal. So you need to know even how does the coal form. Then also we're going to look at the South African companies which are dealing with coal mining. Then also we're looking at the factors that favor coal mining in South Africa. While we are looking at the factors, also we're going to look at the impact of coal in the environment. Then also we need to come up with the strategies to protect our environment. And then we're going to look at the platinum for the local as well as the export market. So before we start with our lesson, if you can please take out your homework. On our previous lesson, you were given a homework. It was on a paragraph question, just one question, whereby you were supposed to answer. The question was, mining as well as the core-dependent companies should work together to rectify the environmental injustices associated with the coal mining. So in a paragraph question, you are supposed to explain how this can be achieved, how they can rectify the environmental injustice. So if you can please take out the homework so that we can start marking. So we're looking at the first point there. We are saying the land mined as open cast coal, it needs to be rehabilitated, which means it needs to be cleaned each and every time. Then we're looking at finding the companies that's supposed to be done by the government to those companies who are responsible for the high levels of air pollution. Remember, a company is given a certain time or a certain amount of the pollution per day. So there are companies who are doing more than what is expected. So those companies, they need to be given fines. And also we're looking at applying the scrubbing as well as the cleaning technologies to the smoke estate. So where they are eliminating the smoke, so it needs to be cleaned as well. And also the one and the easy one, which is the planting of more trees. Remember, in the trees, we get oxygen. So the more we've got trees, it will be the more it will reduce the carbon dioxide that is not needed. And also we need the re-vegetation in the areas where mining occurs. It means in that area, we're supposed to have grass, we're supposed to have a lot of trees so that the air, it could be clean. So these are amongst, remember, you can have other points as long as they will be rectifying the environmental injustices. So if your points are not among these ones, before you assume that your points were wrong, it is also encouraged that you discuss them with your teachers. You might find that even your points are also correct because there are so many ways that we can do to rectify the environmental injustices. Right, we're going to look at the pre-knowledge baseline. So in our pre-knowledge baseline, we're going to take you back in grade 8 when you were doing industrial revolution in history. So the first point, we're going to talk about the coal as well as the iron mines, which hire a lot of people or a lot of workers. Why? Because it is catering for all the people. It might be you are skilled or you are unskilled. They are all catered for. So they hired a lot of people so that they can be able to extract the minerals. Then secondly, before the Industrial Revolution, remember back then what they were using? They were using animals in order to carry the load that they were extracting from the earth's surface. So once they discovered, or once the time goes by and the technology increases, so it's where they discovered the new technology method or the invention of the machines, so that it can be easy to carry out the load. And also, we are looking at, with these new technologies that came, it led into a capitalistic system. Then also, we will be looking at, with the new machines, they were using it to transport and the factories, as well as the agriculture and the mining. They were using those machines that were invented. And then we're looking at, as the Industrial Revolution processed, which means there were laws that were made. So why there were laws that were made? In order to protect the workers, especially the young children as well as the women, so that they don't get abuses from their employers. Right, based on our pre-knowledge baseline, we're going to have 5 questions. The first question, you need to give 2 mines that hired a lot of people. So 2 times 1, it's 1 mark, 1 mark each. Then secondly, before the intervention of machines, what was used to carry the load, for 2 marks? And then third question, the new technologies, they led to a growth of communism or capitalistic. Then you need to choose there for 1 mark. Then the fourth question, you need to name 4 items that the new machines were used in. So there were 4 items that were mentioned in our pre-knowledge baseline. Then question number 5, you need to explain why the laws were made regarding the Industrial Revolution. So I'm going to give you 6 minutes to work on this activity, and then after 6 minutes, we will do the corrections. So don't forget to write your answers down so that it can be easy to compare your answers when we are doing the correction. Right, learners, I hope we are all done. So looking at our first question, whereby you were supposed to give 2 mines, we're talking about the coal mine as well as the iron mine. Then secondly, what was used to carry the load before the invention of the machines? They were using animals. Then secondly, you were supposed to choose the new technologies, they led into a communism or into a capitalistic. So it has led into a capitalistic system. Then we're looking at question number 4. You were supposed to give 4 items that the new machines were used in. So firstly, it was used as a transport, and it was used in the factories, it was used in the agriculture, and it was used in the mining. Then fifth question, you need to explain why the laws were made regarding the Industrial Revolution. So these laws were made to protect the workers, particularly children as well as the women, from the abuse from their employers. Then we're looking at the terminology. So these are the concepts for today, or these are the terms that you need to take care of, or that you need to understand them better. So the first one, we're looking at the foreign exchange. And we've got the trade, then we're looking at the imports as well as the exports. And then lastly, we're going to look at the balance of trade. So if we can go through the definition, number 1, we're talking about the foreign exchange. We are saying is the exchanging of the currency from one country to another at a prevailing exchange rate. So it means if you are selling something to the other country, especially those ones who are using a different currency from us, so obviously you will have that currency of that country. So therefore it will be at the exchanging rate, because you were selling something and then they pay you in the another currency. So you will be exchanging. Then we're talking about the trade. When we're talking about the trade, is the business that involves selling and the buying of goods or services. So again, it happens between the 2 countries that are selling to each other. Then we're looking at the import. The import, we're talking about to bring the product or the goods or services from another country. So if we are allowing or if we are receiving items or goods from other countries, we call that process a import. Then fourth one, we're looking at the export. So export is the opposite of the import. We're saying it's the goods and services that are produced in one country and sold to buyers in another countries. Again, if you've got a good or services that you are dealing with in the certain country, then you get to sell it in other countries. So therefore, you are doing an export. Then lastly, we've got our balance of trade. So when you're talking about the balance of trade, it's the difference between the total export as well as the import. So when it comes to the balance of trade, sometimes a balance of trade, it can be negative and sometimes it can be positive. So when we are saying a balance of trade is positive, it's whereby there is a 50-50 balance between the export as well as the import. Then when it comes to the negative trade balance, it's either the country is receiving more of the imports as compared to the country sending their exports. Remember, if the country is receiving more, it means they're going to pay more. And if they are exporting less, it means they are going to get less income. So it's supposed to be a balance every time. Then we're looking at the significance or the importance of mining. So these type of questions, you will get them in your 2x2 or 3x2 or in a paragraph question. So it is important that you always prepare 4 points when it comes to the importance or the significance of mining. So in other words, why do we need mining in South Africa? So number one, we are saying mining is a large contribution to the GDP. Remember, GDP is your gross domestic product. So if we are saying it's the large contributor, because we are talking about the companies which are involved in mining, we are talking about the workers inside the mines who are contributing towards tax. So as they are contributing towards tax, all that money is being counted at the GDP. Then secondly, we're looking at the second point. We say it's a foreign exchange earnings as well as the balance of trade. So why do we need other currencies? Remember, we are using rands in South Africa, and there are countries who have the currency that is stronger than us. So if we are exchanging or if we are trading with those countries, it means again we're going to get more money. So it is important because we are able to trade with the other countries so that we can have the foreign exchange. Then third point, we're looking at the export of processed as well as unprocessed mineral products. So it means we are able to export these two. It's either the products are processed or the products are still raw, but we are able to export them. So if we are able to export, it means we will have the income as the country. Then we're looking at the fourth point. We are saying mines are a large source of employment. So why are the mines a large source of employment? It's because this sector, it caters for everyone. We've got workers who are trained or who are qualified to operate the machines. They can be hired at the mines. Then we've got those ones who don't have any skill or who are not qualified or who are not trained. Those ones who can do the general work. So they are also hired at the mines. So it means it is catering for all the labor force that is available. Then we're looking at the mining attracts the foreign investment. Again, these people, especially in the ones that are using a different currency from us, they've got a lot of money, so they are looking for ways to invest. So as they are being interested or attracted in the mining business, it means the country will develop because the more and more of the mining companies are being opened, it means there is a lot of people who will gain experience or there's a lot of people who will be gaining employment. So as a country, we do need the investors so that they can be able to develop our country. Then we're looking at the improvement of as well as the construction of the infrastructure. So remember, we are talking about the raw material that needs to be transported. So in order for it to be transported, it means now the development of the infrastructure will be taking place. As they are developing the infrastructure, it means there are people who will be employed as they are developing the infrastructure. And by most of all, we will be left with the roads that are better or the roads that are good. Not only the road, we're looking at the railway as well. It will be service and up and working. It's all because of the mining. Then lastly, we're going to look at the development of link industries. So these are the industries that they develop because of mining. So even if these industries are not doing mining work per se, but they've got the link industries, it means maybe they are doing parts. We're talking about the industries who are manufacturing machines that are used in the mine. So therefore, they will be getting business. As it says there, it supplies material or the equipment to another industry, as well as it's develop another industry of material and the equipment. So because they will need certain equipment and they will need a certain material, so there will be those industries who will be developed so that they can supply the mining companies. Then we're looking at the factors that are favoring mining. So again, the factors, you can get them in a paragraph question. So each factor, you need to know at least 4. So here we're talking about the factors that are favoring mining. So obviously, they are relying more in the raw material. So we are talking about the minerals that are naturally and they are deposits and are generally thick and close to the surface. Remember, we said this year, your question paper will be based on the coal mining. So coal mining, it is closer to the surface. They don't have to blast in order to get the coal. As soon as they discover that area is rich with coal, so they can open the mine that we call an open cast mine. So if we're saying it is closer to the surface, it means they don't have to work deep in order for them to extract that coal. Then secondly, we're looking at the moderate temperature. Remember, these people are working in an open cast. So they need those moderate temperatures for the workers to be able to work. Because if the temperatures are high, it means they will be in discomfort and they won't be able to work as quick as the temperatures when they are moderate. Then we're talking about the skilled as well as a semi-skilled labor, which is available. Like I've said, this industry, it is able to cater for everyone. Whether you are skilled or you are not skilled, you will have work in this industry. And also the investment from other countries, because they want to associate themselves with the mines, because there we are talking about the minerals that are useful. Like the coal, it is used to generate electricity in general. So electricity is needed by everyone in the whole world wide. So if the companies, they want to invest, they can invest in such companies, because there will be no time where we can say we no longer need electricity. Then we're looking at the adequate infrastructure, like your railway, your water, as well as your electricity. So by having the availability or the better or the developed infrastructure, these industries will be able to transport whatever raw material they are dealing with. And also, remember, they need to be closer to the water source because they use water a lot, and they need electricity because they are using machines. Those machines, they run with electricity. Then also we're talking about the availability of the minerals. So without these minerals, the company will not exist. So if they are available, and remember, it's a natural source. It's unlike they have to go and buy the minerals. It is already there. It is available. So therefore, they can be able to start the business. So those are amongst the factors that are favoring. So now, what about the factors that are hindering? I want you to understand something, that the factors that are favoring can also be the factors that could hinder the company. So number one, I'm going to give you climate. Remember the favoring factor, we said the moderate temperatures, they can be a favoring factor. So now climate again can be a hindering factor in terms of when we have high temperatures, the workers, it will be difficult for them to work. So therefore, the production will be slow or there will be no production at all because the conditions will be unbearable. Then secondly, we're looking at the large distance between the mines as well as the export harbors. It increases the cost, especially in the areas like your Gauteng, your Mpumalanga, whereby they need to transport their raw material into the next harbor. It's either they go to Durban or they go to Cape Town. So they need again to hire the trucks that will transport their material there. So which means now it is taking from their profit. Then we're looking at the foreign dependency. So now and then the rent, it is fluctuating. It's either it is up and either it is down. So therefore, when we are saying the foreign dependency, it means the South Africa need overseas to buy as a small portion of minerals and sold locally. We're talking about when we depend more on the export because it's where we're going to get as high money as long as it is still within the country, we'll have a low money because the prices are not the same. So when we say the foreign dependency, we are depending on the currency that is different from us because it is much higher as compared to our South African rand. So if we do a lot of exports, it means we are covered. Then we're looking at the high cost in training as well as housing reduces the profit. So here we're talking about each and every employee or worker, they're supposed to be sent for training. So as you are sending your employees for training, also it is taken from the company's profit and the housing. So most of the time, the mining, they're supposed to have the housing where workers will stay. So therefore, it's within the company that they're supposed to build those houses. So as they are built the houses, it is also taken from their profit. Then we have more of the hindering factor. Number one, we have the industrial action as well as strike that affect the productivity. So the sector like the mines, it whereby the strikes is much higher as compared to other sectors. Their strike, they can even take up to 3 months. So you can imagine if they are on strike, it means there is no work. So if there is no work, there is no production. So the company is losing profits each and every day. So not only the company is also losing because even the employees, because without there is work with no pay. So if they are not working, they won't be paid. Then we're looking at the water shortages. Remember, these industries, they are dealing with a raw material. That raw material, it needs water for it to be cleaned or to be manufactured or to be refined. So if there is a shortage of water, it means there are certain items that they cannot be able to do. Then we're looking at the minerals are a non-renewable. It means if they are dealing with a coal, and if coal is ran out, there is no way that they want to manufacture their own coal. Coal is a natural mineral, so it is non-renewable. So it is a hindering factor because if we run out of the coal, so it means that company won't be successful. Then we're looking at the explosions as well as the collapse of the tunnels. Remember, they use tunnels to go underground. So that thing, it can collapse and they use gas there that can be explosive. So it is dangerous to the workers. And the chronic illness. So you find there are workers who have any of the chronic illness each and every month. They're supposed to be absent from work so that they can collect a medication. So you can imagine if the company, they have 10 workers and amongst those 10 workers, 6, they have chronic illnesses. It means one day in a month, 6 workers won't be able to do their work. So it is also a hindering factor. Then we're going to have our first activity. Our first activity, you've got 2 questions. So amongst those 2 questions are the long questions, because you need to discuss the significance. When we say significance, it's the importance of mining in South Africa, a development. Then secondly, in a paragraph of approximately 8 lines, discuss the factors that favor mining in South Africa and the factors that hinder mining in South Africa. So in this paragraph question, you are being asked 2 things. It's the factors that favor and the factors that hinder. Then on the first one, you're looking at the significance or the importance of mining in South Africa. So you are not told how many responses you need to give on question number 1. But looking at the mark allocation, it is saying 3 times 2, which means you need to give 3 responses. Then again, in our paragraph question, it's saying 4 times 2, which means you need to give 4 responses so that you can be able to get the full mark. Remember, when it comes to the paragraph question, you need to give a fact and a qualifier, which means you need to give a fact, then you explain. In terms of the favoring factor, how does it favor? In terms of the hindering factor, and how does it hinder? So I'm going to give you 10 minutes so that you can be able to work on this activity. Remember, the paragraph question, give a fact and a qualifier, or you give a fact and then you explain that fact, because if you are giving facts only, you won't be awarded marks because you need to discuss. Then 10 minutes, we're going to do the correction. Right, girls and boys, I hope everyone is done. So let us look at our first question. You were supposed to discuss the significance, which is the importance of mining in South Africa development. So remember, South Africa is still a developing country. So we still need this country to develop so that it can reach that stage whereby we are now a developed country. So number 1, the significance or the importance of mining, it is that it is able to contribute towards our GDP. Remember, how do we contribute towards the GDP? By the companies who are registered and they are paying tax, and also the employees who are paying tax. So all that tax money, it goes to the GDP. Then secondly, we're looking at the foreign exchange, because we are able to export these minerals or these products that we are talking about. It means we can be able to have the foreign currency. Then the export of processed as well as unprocessed mineral products. So as I've said, because we are in the business and we are able to trade with the other countries as we are doing exports. Then we're looking at the large source of employment. Remember, we said, because in this sector, each and everyone can have employment, whether you are skilled or you are not skilled, but you can have employment. And then we're looking at, because this sector, it is able to attract the foreign investment, and as we have more investors in the country, it means we can be stable because a lot of people will be employed. And also those investors, they are coming with a foreign currency, which is more powerful as compared to our South African rands, which means now the economy will be developed. Then we're looking at the development of the infrastructure, because we are talking about the products or the goods that's supposed to be transported, which means our roads, they're supposed to be in good order. So with the mining, we'll have the roads that are working, and we'll have the railway that is being improved. So as they are improved, those infrastructure, it means a lot of people, again, will be employed in those sectors. So we are not only looking at the mining side, because there will be those industries that will be formulated or that will be linked into mining, which means the employment sector, it will be broader. Then secondly, you were supposed to give a paragraph where you discuss the factors that favor mining in South Africa as well as the factors that hinder mining in South Africa. So when it comes to such questions, you will ask about two things. So when you are starting with your paragraph, if you want to start with the favoring factors or you want to start with the hindering factors, it doesn't matter as long as you have catered for both. It either you say 2 points on the favoring and 2 points on the hindering, or you say 3 times 1, but you mustn't focus only on one section. So if we are starting with the favoring factors, so you will say the factors that will favor mining in South Africa. So we've got our first point as the skilled as well as the semi-skilled labor force available. So therefore, then you need to explain that people will be able to get employment whether they are skilled or they are not skilled, because this sector, it caters for both. So you've got the full mark, and the marker is able to see that we are talking about the favoring factor. Then our second point, we're talking about the availability of minerals. So the company cannot operate if the minerals are not available. So if they are available, it means the company will be able to operate. It's another favoring factor. Then as soon as we are done with the favoring factors, then you indicate also when it comes to hindering factors. Number one, we're looking at the high cost of training as well as the housing reduces the profit. Then you explain that each and every employee, if they are being employed in a company, they're supposed to undergo the training, and that training, it is reducing their profit because they need to pay someone who's going to train this person. And also they need to build houses of the employees because they're supposed to be next to the company. And then we're looking at the climate. In terms of the climate, we are looking at the high temperatures. Most of the people, these people will be working on an open cast mine, which means if the temperatures are high, it will be difficult for them to work, or they will be in discomfort. So you need to give a point, then you explain a point and you explain, so that you make sure that you collect all those marks. Then we're looking at the formation of coal. So we're going to look at how does the coal form. Remember, you have learned this in grade 11. So number one, the color of the coal, it is black or it is brownish, and it is formed through the rock strata. So you will remember in grade 11 when we were doing the rock strata. And it is also called the coal seams. So you're supposed to know exactly how the coal is formed. And also we're looking at the coal itself. It consists of the carbon, but also contains your hydrogen, your sulfur, as well as your oxygen and your nitrogen. Then also, when it comes to the formation now, the coal, it is formed when a dead plant matter decays into the pit and over the millions of years, and the heat and the pressure converts the pit into a coal. So this is where the point where the coal formation is. Then we're looking at the South Africa, the types of coal that we can be able to produce. So we've got the grade A as well as the medium. So South Africa has a coal that is a comparative medium ash, and it content which can be reduced by washing before sale. So while they need water in the mining so that they can be able to wash the coal. So why they wash it? So that they can minimize the ashes. And then the high grades, it's the one that they deliver in other countries, which means it's the one that they export, because it is a high grade. Also, they will be getting high income as compared to the ones that they use locally in South Africa to generate electricity. Then you must know South African coal mining. So these are amongst our major South African coal mining companies. Maybe you want to pursue your career in mining. So these are the companies that you should focus at. Number one, we've got the Anglo American, we've got your Exxaro, you've got your Glencore, just so that you have the idea what are these companies that we're talking about in South Africa. So these are amongst all the companies that deal with coal. And this is where we need the foreign investors to invest in these companies so that they can continue to run and even grow, because it is where they're going to develop our country. Because as soon as these mines are still operating, it means each and every month the government is able to receive tax money so that they can be able to develop our country. So these are amongst our South African coal mining. So they can ask you about either of the companies, but you don't have to know all the information about the company, because you will be given an extract that is based on that company. So as long as we have an idea what companies we are talking about. So because your exam, it will be based on the coal. So obviously, there will be questions that are based on the impact of coal in the environment. So as much as we need coal to generate electricity, but also coal, it has a bad impact when it comes to the environment. So the first point there, the burning of coal in the industries, it is leading into pollution. So when we are saying pollution, it can be water pollution, it can be air pollution. So these are the harmful, or these are the impacts that are done in the environment because of the coal. Then secondly, we are looking at the coal mining can affect groundwater. So you are taken back to geomorphology. Remember, there is a difference between a groundwater and the water table. So they are saying they can be affected when it comes to the levels as well as the acidity. Remember, the groundwater, we are talking about the water that is stored underground, and that water, we normally use it when it is a dry season. So because of the coal mining, it can be affected. Then we're looking at the power stations that burn or that consume a lot of amount of coal. And also, this, it can be a large quantity because they use a large quantities of water, which means now, as we are saying, it affects our groundwater as well as our water table, because these companies, they consume a lot of water when they are processing or when they are washing the coal. So therefore, it will be a time whereby there will be a shortage of water. Then we're looking at, due to the burning of coal in the industries, it is producing millions of tons of sulfuric as well as nitric acid a year, which results into a acid rain. So you will remember in grade 10, we have learned about the effects of acid rain. Because of acid rain, it ruins our building, even our roads. So as we are saying, we are developing the infrastructure. But now, if the acid rain occurs, it means the very same infrastructure that we are developing, it will be destroyed. So these are amongst the impact of a coal in our environment. So because we are aware of these impacts, so obviously we need to come up with the strategy, what we can use to minimize these impacts. Number one, we need environmental monitoring. So how are we going to do the environmental monitoring? So we're supposed to run audits to be conducted annually, which means each and every year, each and every company, they're supposed to audit as to how much they have polluted in the year. They were still within the allocated amount, or they are going beyond. So the audits, they help them. And also, they need to hire full-time environmental officers. Those people who will be the one that will be hired, and they will be monitoring the company's activity, whether are they still amongst the rules or they are polluting more, because we want to protect our environment. So we are saying these full-time environmental officers should be hired to monitor the compliance, because the company is supposed to comply with the environment management programs, as also the authorizations and the water use licenses. Remember, we said these industries, they use water. So they're supposed to use it under some authorization. They cannot just take whatever water that they need to use, because even in the household, we still need water. So they're supposed to be authorized as to how much amount of water that they can use. Then also, because we're talking about the strategies here, they can hire the officers and they can run the annual audits. Also, the government's supposed to introduce the fines, which means they're supposed to be implemented and they're supposed to be monitored, so that these companies who continue, because some of the companies, they want more profit, so they are doing more of the products as before the one that they were licensed for. So these fines, they will help in order to regulate these companies, that they can pollute, that they do not pollute more as it is required. Then also, we're looking at those companies who can be found not complying with the rules. So obviously, those companies, they need to take their license. As we are saying, their license, they should be revoked. So these are amongst the strategies that you can use. Then we're going to have our second activity. Our second activity is based on the article on the declining mining sector in South Africa. So we're going to read the article together, then we go to the questions. So the topic there, it says Patel SA's mining sector in trouble, in the invited commas. Then you were given the date, the time, as well as the writer. So the Economic Development Minister, Ebrahim Patel, says South Africa's mining industry is in trouble as it is struggles to recover from 23,000 jobs losses since April and falling commodity prices from the key markets in China. So job growth over the last 3 months has been fairly vigorous, but the mining industry is in trouble. Patel said in an interview on Talk Radio 702 on Wednesday, the mining industry, which contributes around 7% to South Africa's most developed economy, is struggling with the sinking commodity prices, rising cost, and labor unrest. Patel said South Africa needed to boost agriculture, tourism, and manufacturing to compensate the fallout from the instability in mining. Patel said there were several factors which contributed to the decline, beginning with the 2008 financial crisis, where 1 million jobs were lost, as well as the recent downturn in the metal industry and subdued demand from China. Infrastructure, especially an unstable electricity supply, was also a factor which added to the mining woes. Then we're looking at our questions. So our first question, it says, quote from the article, why South Africa's mining industry is in trouble. So remember, you are not giving your understanding, but you're supposed to quote. So you quote exactly from the extract why it is in trouble. Then second question, what percentage of the gross domestic product, which is your GDP, does mining contribute towards the South African economy? You will find the answer in the article. Then question number 3, which sector of the economy, according to the article, does the government think should be developed to grow South Africa's economy? So again, I'm going to display the article so that you can be able to read it on your own first. Then I'm going to give you 5 minutes to read the article. And then after, because we have seen the questions, then you can make a note if you're seeing the answer, because most of the answers will be based on the article. So I'm going to give you this 5 minutes to read the article, then we're going to display the questions. Right, I hope everyone is done. So let us display the questions. So remember to write your answers down so that you can be able to compare your answers when we are doing the corrections. So I'm going to give you 4 minutes for these 3 questions. Then after 4 minutes, we're going to do the corrections. Right, girls and boys, I hope everyone is done. So let us look at our first answer. You were supposed to quote, remember, from the article, why South Africa's mining is in trouble. So there, as it struggles to recover from 23,000 jobs losses since April and falling commodity price from the key markets in China. We find that in the second line of our article. So here it is taken from as it is. So let us go to the next question. It says, what percentage of the gross domestic product does mining contribute towards South Africa's economy? We have 7%. Again, this 7%, it is taken directly from the article. It is around 7%. So hence, it is important to read your article because you don't want to miss such answers, because these are the giveaway answers. The answer is there in front of you. Then question number 3, it says, which sector of the economy, according to the article, again, does the government think should be developed to grow South Africa's economy? So you have primary, you have secondary, you have your tertiary sector. So let us go back again. We have to boost agriculture. So agriculture, it belongs to which sector? It's a primary sector. Then again, we have tourism. Again, tourism, they are providing service, which means which sector? It's a tertiary sector. And the manufacturing. Manufacturing, remember, it's an example of a secondary sector. So it is important to know your sectors and it is important to know the examples. So hence, the answer was primary, secondary, and tertiary sector. So you name all of them. If you only wrote primary sector, your answer is incorrect because you did not cater for tourism, which is a tertiary. You did not cater for manufacturing, which is a secondary sector. So I hope you realize that mistake if you have done so. Then again, we're still on the same article. With that article, we now have 2 more questions, which is question number 4 as well as question number 5. So your question number 4, it says, briefly explain why the recent downturn in the metal industry and subdued demand from China has had a negative effect. So the negative effect on South Africa's mining sector. 2 times 2, meaning you need to give 2 responses. Then number 5 is a paragraph question. You discussed the factors that have contributed to the instability, of the mining sector in South Africa. 4 times 2, 4 responses. Remember, you give a factor, then you explain. A factor, then you explain, so that you know for sure that we have accommodated all those marks. So with this, I'm going to give you 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, we will be able to do the corrections. Right? I hope everyone is done, learners. So let us look at our answers. The first answer there, we're going to look at number 4, where you're supposed to explain briefly why the recent downturn in the metal industry as well as subdued demand from China has had a negative effect. So here we're talking about the negative effect of the mining sector, which means you need to think of the hindering factors. So number 1, it leads to a less demand for metal. So if there is a less demand for metal, it means it's a negative factor because this company, the profits will be declining because the client won't be needing any of their product or services, or they will be needing less. Then we're looking at the income from the export will decrease. Remember, we're saying because of the downturn, which means there will be a decrease in the production. If there is a decrease in the production, it means even the export will be decreased, which will lead into a country not receiving more of the income. And then we're looking at it will affect the trade balance of the country negatively. Remember, we have talked about the trade balance, that we have a negative as well as the positive. So when we have a negative trade balance, it means now the country is allowing more of the import as compared to the export. And also the company will make less profit. Why less profit? Because there is less production. And also lowering of profits will make less profit again. Remember, the company, in order for the company to grow, they need to make a lot of profit. If the profit is declining or it is less, which means now this company is forced to retrench or to even close down. Then we're looking at our question number 5, paragraph question, whereby you were supposed to discuss the factors that have contributed to the instability of the mining sector in South Africa. So right now, in South Africa, as the country, we are faced with the challenge or the problem that we called a load shedding. Remember, electricity is being used in these companies. It's being used in our household, but most of all, if we're having a load shedding, it means these companies, because they are using machines which run through electricity, they are using equipment which run through electricity. Let's say we have a load shedding for 2 hours or 4 hours. It means now this company, they have lost the production for 2 hours or 4 hours, which means they have less production and which will lead into a less profit. We're saying the load shedding causes loss of revenue. So loss of revenue, it means now the money that was supposed to be paid by this company through tax, it will be less. The income as well as the activities which will cease for hours. As it ceases, it means it stopped. Let's say the electricity went off for 2 hours, which means the production has ceased or has stopped for 2 hours, or even worse, 4 hours. And the mines and the metal companies will have less productive. And we're looking at the labor unrest. When we're talking about the labor unrest, we're talking about the strike that takes place at the mines. Remember, if there is a strike there at the mine companies, it's a total shutdown, which means there is no one who is working. Depending on how long the strike will be, sometimes it could be a week or even months. Worst cases. So it means now those companies won't be making any product, which means there is nothing that they will be exporting. And also, worst of all, even the employees won't be paid because they did not work. So it means even them, the employees, there will be something that won't be able to do. Then we're looking at the HIV and AIDS, which is under chronic illnesses. It resulted in the skilled workers who are dying, especially if we lose amongst those skilled workers, because they need to be trained and they need to be qualified in order for them to operate. So if these skilled workers are dying because of the chronic illnesses, it can also make a mining company to be instability. And then also we're looking at the increased cost of water as well as water shortages. Remember, we said these companies, they use a lot of water so that they can be able to manufacture or to process their products. So if the cost of water is increasing, it means it is taking from their profit. And if they're having a shortage of water, again, they won't be able to process their products because the water will be less. So these are the things that can make the company to be instability. And then we're looking at the factors that are favoring coal mining in South Africa. So number one factor, the coal is currently the cheapest, and it is baseload technology in South Africa. So as it is cheap, we are saying it is cheap because it is found at the earth surface. It's not like they have to build it. It is there naturally for free. They just need to extract it. So hence we are saying it is cheap. Then secondly, the coal will remain the part of the energy mix. So they can come with some technology ways or more scientific ways to generate electricity, but the fact remains that coal, it will also be part of that energy mix. Then thirdly, we're looking at the clean air coal technologies has been developed, which can enable South Africa to move towards the greener future. Remember now, South Africa is moving into a greener future, which means we need to take care of our atmosphere, of our environment. So by doing that, they need to move into a greener future, which means they're supposed to come up with the ways that will be more clean for them to generate this coal, or for them to generate whatever products like electricity as well as petrol that they use to generate with the coal. So by that, we are saying we are moving into a greener future. And then we're looking at South Africa has a large coal reserve as well as the resources. So which means it will always be there, and we will be able to continue to make the product, and we can have we will be sure that these industries will belong working, and it will be able to develop our country because we are looking at the large reserves or as well as the resources that are available. Then we're looking at the platinum for the local as well as export markets. So even though your exam, they say it won't be too much on the platinum, but you just need to know where is it located, and how are they affected, and what are the platinum companies that we have in South Africa. So we are looking at locally, and we are looking at the export market, because platinum is one of our South African minerals. So therefore, it is located at the Bushveld Igneous Complex, and it is found in these following provinces. It can be found in Limpopo, it can be found in Mpumalanga. We're looking at the northwest as well as the northwestern part of Gauteng. So this is where the platinum is. And we're looking at the factors that have hindered these platinum companies. So you will remember, even if you are still young, but they are still talking about it in the news, the platinum strike that took place in 2014. It was the longest, and it was the expensive one, because there are a lot of people who lost their lives in that strike. And it was the longest strike because it took a long year, which means the people who were working in those platinum mines, they did not have any income. Even the company itself, they did not have any income because it was a total shutdown. And then the companies amongst the South African platinum mines, we're looking at Impala Platinum Mines, we're looking at the Platinum Group, and we're looking at Modikwa Platinum Mines. Remember, even if you are being asked in this, they will give you an article that will be based, but you must have an idea where is it located, and what are the things that have hindered that company. And obviously the factors that have favored are amongst the ones that we have shared when it comes to the mining industry. Then you know the companies. Then we're going to look at our next activity. So our next activity is based on the statistics, which is in a table form. The platinum mining operations between 2010 and 2012. So they are comparing 2 years here. You're going to look at the operations. Then we're looking at the dollars, which means we're looking at our export market. Remember, we said local and export. So we have the US dollars. Then we're looking at 2010, 2011, and 2012. So we're looking in terms of the cost, we're looking at the price, we're looking at the employees, we're looking at the gross profit or the loss. So this is our diagram. Let's go through the question so that we can go back to the diagram, because some of the answers will be based on the diagram. So the first question, it says, name the year that recorded the most tons of minerals mined at the platinum mine. So if the question says the most, it means the largest. So we're going to go back to the diagram so that you can be able to identify the answer for number 1. Then second question, it says, why are the monetary figures relating to the operations of a South African mine quoted in US dollars? Then third question, you state 2 social factors that can hinder mining in South Africa, 2 times 2. So let us go back to the diagram. So remember the question, it asks about the recorded, which year that recorded the most tons in minerals mined at the platinum mine. Then we're looking at, there you've got 2010 with 2.23 million tons. Then we're looking at 2011 with 1.95 million tons. Then we're looking at 2012 with 1.82 million tons. So I hope you get the answer. Then our second question, it says, why are the monetary figures relating to the operation of a South African mine quoted in the US dollars? So I'm going to give you 4 minutes to work on this activity. And then after 4 minutes, we can be able to do the corrections. Right? I hope everyone is done. So let us look at our first answer. Our first answer, we're looking at 2010. Remember, 2010 is the one with 2.35. Then secondly, we're looking at why the monetary figures are relating to the operation of a South African mine quoted in the US dollars. So it is commonly established international unit of a currency used by the World Bank, which means we are looking at the export market there, hence it is quoted in dollars. Then thirdly, state 2 social factors that can hinder mining in South Africa. So amongst the factors that can hinder, we're looking at the strike action for better wages. So we have explained that if the strike is going on, it means there is no production for that day or for that week or for that month, depending on how long the strike is. So therefore, everyone suffers there. The employer suffers and the employees, they suffer. Then the second one, we're looking at the demand for healthcare, pension, housing, as well as food. So most of the time, why do miners strike? It's because they want a healthcare, they want better pension, as well as the housing. So these are amongst the factors that can hinder mining. Remember, these are not only the factors. Also, you can think of the ones that we have learned about today. You're looking at your climate, which is your high temperatures. We're looking at the minerals being a non-renewable. So there are more of the factors as compared to the 2 that we have shared. And also we're looking at the illnesses which resulting into the skilled workers being lost. It's one of another hindering factor. Then we have our homework as per usual. So homework today, you need to differentiate, or you need to give the difference between trade and the trade and the balance of trade. So second question, you give the difference between the import and the exports. Then question number 3 is a paragraph question, whereby you need to discuss the negative physical factors that affect mining in South Africa. Remember, you give a fact, then you need to explain that fact. So if we can summarize what we have learned today, we have learned about the significance of mining. When we say significance, we are saying the importance, why mining is important. Then we have learned about the factors that favor as well as the factors that hinder our South African economy. And also we have learned about how the coal is formed, and we have looked into the major companies that operate or that deals with coal in South Africa. And we have looked into the factors that are favoring coal mining, and we have looked at the impact as well as the strategies. And we have learned about the platinum mining. So don't forget your homework. And then we have come to an end of our lesson today. So hopefully you have enjoyed the lesson. And most of all, I hope you have learned something today. So again, don't forget your homework until we see each other on our next lesson. Thank you.